Serving Tampa Bay since 1954, the Heritage Station, WTMP, Egypt Lake, Tampa, Clearwater, 97.5 in Pinellas.
Alrighty, everyone. Surprise, surprise, this is not Eddie. This is Gabriel starting out. Eddie is en route. We seem to have a lot of traffic happening out on the highways right now. And it seems to be all those northerners coming that are escaping those wonderful states up north that have all those wonderful Democrats destroying their communities, and those people can't wait to get out from the north. And unfortunately, they ended up in Tampa today when Eddie's out in traffic. So he'll be here directly. But as we look forward to this day, we've got a great agenda. Eddie always brings plenty to the table with what we're going to be chatting about. But also, as we go forward, understand there's a lot of amazing things happening in our community and out in our nation. And there's a lot of really big stuff coming out of Washington that a lot of people just are truly not paying attention. So this is Porch Talk Radio. We're on Facebook Live right now. Make sure to like and share on Facebook Live right now. Porch Talk Radio, as we are coming to you with the voice of reasoning. You've had your share, a few hours of lots of repeat points from CNN. And if you could actually just glance between CNN. Oh, if you miss the news on CNN, if you end up on CBS, ABC, NBC, it don't matter. It's all the same thing they're talking about. If you guys ever research to find out who owns those stations, you would be amazed to find out that between Fox News has become much more progressive these days, much more progressive because young sons are running it now. The old man Murdoch is somewhere out in the background now. He's old and he's busy with all his money, I guess. But you'll find CNN, CBS, NBC, ABC, all of those are on the same talking points. And out of the 1,500 channels available in America, there's 3 companies that own all those. Just a little understanding. So again, if you miss your news on CNN, you can catch it on ABC, CBS, NBC, MSNLSD. It's all the same thing, folks. So as we go forward, we'll have a call-out number for you here pretty quick. As we are waiting for Eddie, I've got tons of stuff to share with you guys as we go forward. Understanding that there's never a good time to leave your glasses somewhere else where you are not. Now, as of right now, we're finishing up February. We've had nearly 100,000 people that died in the U.S. from coronavirus in Joe Biden's first month in office. I thought that was going to stop because Joe was going to be in office. But Trump did such a great job that Joe Biden came out and said, there's nothing we can do to change the trajectory. In other words, Trump's done a great job. It's doing all it can do. Now we're going to do a COVID package. We're going to call it a COVID package. Out of $1.9 trillion, we know 9% is going towards COVID. So for you guys to try and grab a handle on that. Now they still have $1 trillion left over from last time. They haven't used it. But I am fairly certain within 12 months it's going to disappear and we'll have no idea where it's went to. Now, right now at CPAC that's going on this weekend, Mr. Trump speaks tomorrow at 3:30. One of the things that's going on that there's talking about is why is it that our speech is being hampered so much? So right now we know the congressional Democrats have sent a letter to Comcast, Amazon, Google, AT&T, and others, demanding to know what they are going to do about the spread of misinformation from Fox News, One American News, and Newsmax, including whether they will continue to carry them. So what the Democrats are asking, this hasn't gotten much attention from anybody. If the Republicans were in power and they asked CNN, ABC, CBS, NBC, MSN, LSD, what they're going to do about the misinformation being given out by Democrats, how would the people respond suddenly? See, folks, the ones in power, and Eddie's brought up many times, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So the Democrats right now say, we cannot have anybody saying anything different than what we're saying, because what we're saying is straight from God. We are God. We're your government. You can trust us. It's an understanding that, well, no, not really. We can't trust you for nothing. And as we look at them wanting to deplatform, YouTube has already come out and said, if you say something that you didn't like the election results, we're going to kick you off of YouTube. Now, ladies and gentlemen, what if that was the shoe was on the other foot there? What if the Republicans were saying, if you didn't like the way you ran the election, we'll just silence you. We'll take you off of Facebook. We will take you off of Twitter. We will take away your voice to millions of people around the nation and the world because we can. Now, if the Republicans controlled Facebook like the Democrats do, how would Democrats feel about that? Would they care? Would they pay attention? Would they just be quiet? No. I bet they'd fight like hell to change that. So, too many people that call themselves Democrats that voted for this, the Democratic Socialist Party to be in power, well, that party's now in power. And they're trying to control as much power right now as of this week. They're also trying to pass legislation to control and micromanage every election in the United States controlled by Washington, from Washington, by the Democrats. Now, that should scare a majority of people saying, well, what happens when they're not in power? What happens when the Republicans are in power? See, this is where liberalism hits a roadblock. I'd say mental, but no, it's not really mental because that's not happening, obviously. Because there's no end game here. The objective is simply grab as much power as quick as possible and try and beat the other side before they get into power someday, maybe. So, folks, it's just an understanding of absolute power corrupts absolutely. Now, to show that Mr. Biden's on point with America, CNN put out recently that the 861 Americans fled or filed for unemployment under the Joe Biden administration. What's Joe doing about that? He's trying to get illegal aliens, immigrants, some citizenship. Now think about that. 861 people don't have a job. They're out of a job. And the Biden administration is bringing in millions of illegal residents to try and make them residents. And what jobs are those people going to be looking for? Anything? Yeah. Maybe some of the jobs. So, Joe, let me give you a quick little heads up here. If 861 people suddenly don't have a job, where are we going to find the job for the other 11 to 22 million that you're wanting to give citizenship into this country and give them free medical, free benefits up front? If 861,000 people, which is this came out from the Labor Department last week, if these people don't have a job and the administration isn't busy creating jobs, they're busy bringing in 11 to 22 million more, making them citizens, what are they going to do? So, folks, there's just a lot of, and this is where liberalism is mental sometimes, because they just don't seem to think that through. Now, for you thinkers out there, and we've got a pretty sharp audience, I'm thankful for that. America has 133 million registered voters. 133. How could 159 votes be counted? What did the liberals say, the control and all that? That's not important. What's important is that you're a racist. So, folks, it's kind of getting a handle on this. that we need to be able to question our authority. And if we don't question the authority, then we end up under their shoe. And that really doesn't seem to be anything that a lot of people are concerned about, except grab more power, get it while you can. And that's just a scary thing, because this does change. Remember, the power does shift eventually, one way or the other. So as we go to we always have wonderful jokes here that actually I get quite a few compliments on the jokes as we keep adding to our list of things that we run across here, because the whole idea is sometimes this stuff is pretty serious. So I'll end with this one. I'll hand it over to Eddie here, just showed up. I don't mean to brag, but I have the exact same medical degree as Bill Gates and most of you in this listening audience. That's right, noon. Eddie?
All righty.
I got us introduced.
Yes, you did. You did a great job. And we got a caller. So before we do anything, we might as well take care of business. Caller, welcome to Porch Talk Radio on this fine Saturday afternoon. Who are you? Where you calling from? And what say you? Hello? Okay. All right.
Fake.
You're like the news we get.
That's it.
All right, folks. Welcome to Saturday afternoon, Porch Talk Radio. Your host, Eddie Adams. I don't know what was happening out there this afternoon with the traffic. It's the worst. I've been doing this show 10 years, and I have never seen it that bad. Didn't see any accidents. Didn't see any tow trucks, on the side, with cars that had broken down or whatever the deal was. And for all intents and purposes, it was all I-4. Everything that was connected to I-4, because when I got on 275, I didn't see a whole lot of traffic backed up toward USF, toward Bushville. Didn't see anything. So it looked like it was pretty much clear, but somehow you would think it was a Bucks game going on or something. That they had all those cars and everybody headed in the same direction. Looked on the other side of 275 when I got downtown and I-4, nothing. It was almost like nothing was there. So I don't know whether it was something for the road. I didn't get to it, and everybody was rubbernecking. You know how people do. Sometimes you have an accident or something, and both sides back up, but the accident is only on one side of the highway. So, but anyway, welcome. Thank you for listening to Porch Talk Radio. For those who don't have the call-in number, the call-in number is 813-251-9867. 813-251-9867. For those who want to call me on my cell phone after the show, sometime during the week, and I got a bunch of calls last week, so we would deal with that. Also, my Eddie Adams Jr. cell phone number is 813-312. And if you want to text me, text me to that number, email porchtalkradio.com. That's Eddie, E-D-D-I-E, at porchtalkradio.com. Give your info, Gabriel.
All right, then, and for you folks that love to go and research and check information out, I do my best to bring as much as possible to the table. And, of course, I do spend time reading it, looking it up everywhere. But if you feel something is just not quite wrong, and this is just not an emotional stance you want to take, because why bother? You're welcome to give me a call at any time, 727, area code 2311. And again, I'm not as nice as Eddie. He promised to return your call pretty quickly. If you're just going to vent because you want to be emotional, I'm not a therapist, so I can't help you with that. But if you've actually found information to prove otherwise, please let us know. We're always quick to want to be corrected.
All right, now this show, now a lot of you guys know, and some of you guys get your info, like Gabriel was saying earlier, ABC, CBS, CNN, all that kind of, all those sources of as some people call it, fake news. If you get your news and information from that, you may know, you may not have gave a crap one way or the other, but Rush Limbaugh passed. And as to trying to deal with that, last week on the show. I said I'll wait to this week to more set in, and a lot of black folks don't, and we've kind of had this conversation, many times over the years, don't like Rush Limbaugh, but they don't like him because of anything they know or heard him say themselves. It's mostly because somebody else told him that he said something, or he called a name, or he did this, or he did that, or whatever. They really traditionally are not big fans of Rush Limbaugh. I am a fan of Rush Limbaugh. I was a fan, and even though he's passed, a lot of the stuff he said, it made sense to me. Back when I actually started listening to Rush Limbaugh back in 1987.
I came on in 88, listened to him.
So if you guys remember where you were in 1987. And see, I used to work at Tampa General Hospital, used to work the afternoon shift. I worked in cardiopulmonary. I worked in the lab. I was a pulmonary technician at Tampa General, and I was there for 20-something years. But at that point in time, I worked at the evening shift, and I was thumbing to the radio. I used to live out near USF, so I was on my way to work, and I was thumbing through the radio stations. And let me say, for those who may not believe it, back in those days, I was a Democrat. Wasn't political, but had been Democrat my whole life. For what I knew about politics, it came from.
I like that.
It came from black folks, and most of the black folks I knew were Democrat. Didn't even know any Republicans, that was black back in those days. But again, I listened on my way to work, which is probably 20-minute drive from USF to Tampa General, 25 minutes. I was thumbing through the news, thumbing through the stations, trying to find something, and kind of ran across this voice on the radio. And for maybe 5-10 minutes, of riding, was listening to some of the stuff he was saying. Now, again, I'm saying I was, for the most part, a regular Democrat. I wasn't politically active back then. I was just going to work, had a good job, good pay, good hours, was educated, had a college degree, and wasn't looking to get into politics. So, heard part of what he was saying, had to go in, clock out, and clock in to go to work and stuff, But the next day, I came back to the same station and heard him talk a little bit more. So this time I kind of heard him all the way in, and after a few weeks of just listening to him on the way in, it started making sense. But again, he come on in the afternoon. I'm working in the afternoon, and the way it worked in the lab, there was a radio in the lab, and for all intents and purposes, most of the people who worked in the lab with me, we all pretty much blacks and whites and female had the same politics. Everybody was pretty much Democrats. And we didn't listen to talk at work as so much as we did music. So
talks for old people.
So the issue was, listening to some white station or listening to TMP. I mean, that's what it was back in those days, And so one day, and this was probably after a few months of listening to Rush, I came in, and it was my time to select what we all listened to, and I turned to the station that Rush was on.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, everybody
blew up.
Black folk, white folk, everybody having a connection fit.
There you go.
And so what the deal ended up, and everybody, well, why are you listening to that guy? Why are you listening to that guy? I say, well, I'm listening to that guy so that I would know what the other side was thinking.
Ooh.
See, I was smart.
Sneaky.
I was smart back then.
Sneaky.
So this is what I'm telling everybody, especially, the white guy who was, I think the white guys who were more sensitive to what he was saying than, because I had just started listening. So what he was saying, worldly view, just kind of made sense to me.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say, well, the only way we gonna know what the other side is thinking is to hear guys like this talk.
That's true, and you're right, technically.
So I kind of sold everybody else, so they actually would listen. And everybody had the days which you picked what was on the radio.
Sure.
So when my day came,
they knew.
That's what I listened to. And it was only for like an hour or 2 hours because, again, we work in the afternoon shift, and Rush came on at 1 back then. He comes on at 12 now, but he came on at 1 back then. So our shift started like 2:30. So from 2 to 2:25, 2:20 is when I was listening to it.
That's a good dose.
But once I got there, we had another hour. So they had to put up with at least an hour of listening.
Were there any conversations?
I don't know, because back then I still wasn't political.
Okay.
You were just listening.
You knew not to push, just to listen.
Yeah. I was just listening. So after a while, he pretty much said anything that I wanted to do, it was boundless. Opportunity was there. Okay, we got a caller. Caller, welcome to Porch Talk Radio on this Saturday afternoon. Who are you? Where you calling from? And what say you? Hello?
Yo.
Yes. What?
So, but let me just say, they told me your show was supposed to be remote from Orlando, man. I imagine you broadcasting some CPAC right now, off the floor. Man, I just thought you were going to be in Orlando. Maybe you'll go there tomorrow and hear the big golden speech.
I went to CPAC several times when it was in Washington, D.C. So, having done this stuff, yeah.
I know you done been everywhere all the world.
That's true.
This relevant now. You ain't down there right now.
Yeah, okay.
They need you. You should have been brought there. They were paid for it, from what I was told. But anyway, man, I just want to tell y'all, keep up the good show. Keep it balanced and keep it fair and keep it real and just keep it out there. Because, other people want to hear both sides of the story. You ain't only one know both sides of the story. So I like to hear your side of the story. So keep it going, keep it positive, and keep it conservative.
Thank you, bro. Thank you, my brother. Thank you for calling.
That's
Thank
a
you
good
for
man.
calling.
That's a
Yeah,
good man.
and the nature of why I'm kind of telling this story and telling it today, as opposed to having done this last week when everybody was pretty much bashing. It was a lot of people bashing Rush because he died, last week or week before.
There's a lot of evilness out there, Eddie.
Yeah, it was a lot of folks taking advantage. Glad he gone, that kind of stuff. I am just trying to tell you one story because a lot of folks don't. Oh well, he was this and he said that and he called it, but they never listen to a show. They never,
you're right.
They never listen actually to what he was saying, and they never garnered, created in their mind any kind of relationship. I did not and was not attracted to what he was about until after I heard several shows, because it's something in me that connected. And once it connected, then I became more and more interested in the show. So again, up until that point in time, this is back in 1980s. So I went all the way through the 80s, went through the 90s, all the way into 2000. I didn't switch parties. Me, Eddie Adams Jr. personally, switched parties from Democratic Party to Republican Party until 2005.
Oh my goodness!
And then in 2006, I actually ran for Congress as a Republican. But again, a lot of it had to do with the matriculation of going from being Democratic and the whole world I know and everybody in it was pretty much Democratic to become Republican. Because me as a person have never been go along to get along, following the crowd kind of person. I always had my own identity. Always had my own trains of thought. Like I've never been drunk and I've never been high. Because did not want to have somebody tell me what I did or what I didn't do, and not actually knowing myself.
Nowadays, you just look on Facebook.
Yeah, because it's a bunch of people. I have a lot of friends, especially when I went through college, who would pass out and be out for 2 or 3 days.
Oh my goodness!
Would be that drunk or that high,
Oh.
be in the, and these were friends. I'm talking about people I knew personally, and some of the people I grew up with in Lake Wales, in high school. Was people who
No names.
who drunk heavily as kids, and people who did drugs heavily as children. We're in high school, and these folks are doing it to the point to where they pass out, didn't know, and since I didn't do drugs and wasn't drinking and doing all the other stuff, my friends' parents loved me because on Friday and Saturday night, I would take them all home.
You were the designated driver.
I didn't drive.
Oh.
I didn't have a car.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
we walked where we needed to. So I would walk them all one by one home.
Wow, that's all.
Knock on the door Friday night, 11, 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock at night.
Here's your drunk kid.
Here's your kid, exactly.
Wow, Eddie, you talk about connections. I started listening back in '88, and Ronald Reagan. I was of voting age, right around Ronald Reagan time, and I heard the Democratic Party go absolutely crazy and ballistic over Ronald Reagan and his policies and all that, and yet our country grew and flourished amazing during that period. So I already had the idea that this is good what these guys are doing. They call themselves Republicans, and then along came Rush Limbaugh with his program.
Right.
And I think what caught my attention is after Rush had been at it for 15 years, and it became syndicated around the nation. After about 15 years at it, and still growing, is when he would give his stories of, when I first started doing radio,
right.
I was fired several times, and I was so broke that I had to use my Conoco gas card to get my sandwich. That was my lunch, probably my dinner, because I could, back then, when Conoco was around, you can use their card to get their stuff inside their little convenience store they had.
Right. Yeah.
He said, and I made it until finally I started to not be fired from jobs. I got put in the right spot, and then I had to create all that I needed to become.
Right.
And I did it, and now I don't have to worry about money. But I was like, wow, I can relate to that being so broke, because I remember using my Conoco card to go get a sandwich. I'll make a payment on that sucker. It's only $3, but I can make a $1.50 payment on that thing. And so to me, that was just a relationship of a real person that had been through the struggle, lived it, and went beyond. Wow.
Well, the other thing, and this is one of the stories Rush would tell, and this is one of the things they told about him after he was dead. All the men in Rush's family, and if I'm wrong, somebody call me correct. If not all, most of the men, his daddy, his granddad, his brothers, all these people was attorneys. They were lawyers. And Rush said he didn't like school. So he did not want to. He fell in love with radio when he was 8 or 9, or whatever that thing was, and that's what he wanted to be. So he didn't keep a job. That's one thing he was saying. He got fired from a whole bunch of different places where he went and was working to all these no-name stations in the middle of nowhere, playing music, and then he developed a political style. It wasn't just conservatism. It was who he was, how he was, and he started feeling comfortable in his own skin.
That's a big one.
And he's talking about how his family supported him, and nobody thought what he was doing was wrong. And I'm telling you, people, that it's a lot of stuff that a lot of people do where they come into their own. So you kind of come into your own if you're not trying to follow someone else's lead, if you're not trying to be like someone else's. And that's one of the things that happened, to me and listening to this guy. Rush, a white, a male, conservative who, just on his own merit, most black folks didn't like, those things about him. Even anything else he said. Okay, we got another caller. Caller, welcome to Porch Talk Radio on this Saturday afternoon. Who are you? Where you calling from? And what say you? Hello?
This is Adam from Tampa.
Yes, Adam.
Hello, Adam.
Okay. You're talking about Rush Limbaugh. I'll say one positive thing that because I listened to his show. As you said that, you said to people when you started listening, to hear what the other side is saying. But my views didn't change by listening to Rush. But one thing I would say is on a humanity level and compassionate level, when he talked about when he said that he was told, he said everybody's going to die. He said, but we just don't know when. But he said when someone tells you how much time you have, then it gives you a different perspective. And on a human level, I had compassion for him. But the thing is that the man, when he had his platform, used his platform in a certain vile way, a certain disparaging way. He was anti-Semite, he was misogynist, he was racist.
And this is your opinion.
Right? Yeah, you got to say that I believe, because I listened and I didn't get none of that stuff.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm not saying that you didn't get that.
Right.
But the thing is that is your view of Rush. But the thing is that you have a record of statements that he made that were leading to. You can make that inference by misogynist things, by racist things that he said, and you could just Google it, and you can.
But okay, let me say, I've heard black folks say more everything that you just said, that I ever heard on Rush show, and I can hear it weekly, and been hearing it my whole life. So at some point in time, you got to take in consideration it affects everybody differently. And the nature of what it is
some black folks don't mind being called the N-word. Some people don't mind when a white person says,
Wait, let me ask you something. Because this is what I was talking about. Yeah. Have you ever heard him say the N-word out of his mouth while you were listening to him? Have you ever?
No, I heard.
Wait. The question is yes or no.
I was making reference.
Yes or no. Yes or no?
No, I didn't say that he said the N-word.
No, you say no. You sure enough inferred it. If you didn't say it exactly, you sure enough inferred it pretty hard.
You should be in politics, Adam.
Look, you were talking about as far as that you've heard other black folks say worse things.
Yes. Oh yeah. I hear black folks say that today.
Okay. Yeah. I can. If you would ask me, I would say there's other black folks use that word. But the thing is that doesn't take away from, I know that people like to do revisionist history when someone passes away, and they like to say, well, you know what, he was this, he was a good man. From the people that knew him, they said he was a great guy. They said he was a charitable guy. But the thing is that the people that were the receiving of his arrows and his direction, his negative.
The people who receiving of my arrows. I mean, hell, that's nature. That's man.
Remember, there was a time when he called the young woman who went to Congress and spoke about contraception, and from Georgetown, he called her a slut and a prostitute. And the thing is that he had to apologize.
And your point? And your point? It's a bunch of sluts and prostitutes in the U.S. Congress. I'm sorry to say it, but I'm saying
on both sides.
Yeah. You must ain't ever been to Washington, D.C. You must don't know of what goes on behind closed doors in Washington, D.C. Because I can tell you, I've been there, and it's not pretty. So the nature of that position has been glorified by the press and the media. But if you go up there and see what goes on, and a lot of this human trafficking and a lot of law breaking going on, and it used to be a time when a U.S. congressman could go to the bank, write a check, and not have a dime in the bank, and write a check to whoever for whatever, and it would clear. So I'm just saying,
this was just a young woman that was testifying in terms of about contraception.
But I'm missing your point. He called her a slut and he called her a prostitute. So what else?
If you disagree with someone, you shouldn't have to disparage them and call them a name.
You shouldn't. Everybody deal with this stuff differently. They deal with it in their own way. And I thank you for the call, but we've talked about this, long enough. Yeah. And so if we got another caller, because again, at the end of the day, what we're trying to do here, and I started out having a conversation about how do we, justify, or how do I come about, being a fan of Rush Limbaugh. So again, I said from the very beginning, I know most of you don't like Rush. You're not telling me nothing I don't already know.
And that's okay, Eddie.
Right?
They cannot like it.
It's okay. I don't have. I ain't
But they don't have
asking
to
you.
defend their point either.
Ain't
like,
asking
whatever.
you. Ain't ever asked anybody to like who I like. Matter of fact, I started this whole conversation out. I am not a follower. You don't have to do something because I done it. And I ain't got to do something because of you do. I pick my own people who I want to look up to. Mm-hmm. And those people are people who for the most part, if you listen to what they're talking about and what they're saying, it makes a lot of damn sense. That's all I'm saying. I'm saying I listened to that guy. And that guy became a multi-millionaire, if not a billionaire.
Huge.
Off doing something that everybody was thinking pretty much, you the stupidest one in the family. Everybody else is lawyers, everybody else are judges, everybody else went to college, everybody is college educated, and they got all this stuff going on for them. And at the end of the day, all of the people in Rush family, I'm telling you, I don't have any facts to back this up, but I bet you Rush Limbaugh had more capital wealth than anybody else in his family, if not all his other family members put together. I'm just saying. But this is from the guy who many people thought was a dumbass. Mm-hmm. And I'm just saying the nature of what he was doing. They think it didn't take any mental aptitude to sit on the radio and talk, and then in the beginning, play music, and pretty much, critique and add a little bit here and a little bit there. After a song went off, and then put the next song on. I'm saying the nature of what it was that he was doing, it wasn't that big a deal. It wasn't that important when he was doing it. If you look at it, he took it to a whole new level.
And he had teams of people that would research the information. He would send people out, and he came back and he provided knowledge every hour, with just knowledge being poured out. And he had facts. He had sources to back all of it. I mean, he created a persona of just conservatism and what it's about and hard work. It pays off if you just stick to what you're doing. And if you have passion for it, that's even better. And the man made hundreds of millions of dollars over his career time. And there's no way to compare with a regular job.
He syndicated that show in over 600 different radio stations across the world. I'm going to say across the country. I'm saying across the world.
They go on the internet, so it's everywhere.
I'm across the world. 600, 700 syndicated shows, syndicated stations. And he did this for 30-some years, 30-some, 40-some years. So he went from just a guy, on a little small town radio station, and he grew it. See, that's the other thing you guys are forgetting. People like me, who probably on a day-to-day regular basis would not believe that they was listening to this guy. But once you listen and not be prejudgmental, that's why I never say, you gotta listen to Rush Limbaugh. Because if you discover something on your own, as opposed to someone telling you to go listen to this or go do that, go read this, go there, go that, if you discover something on your own, there's no preconceived notion about it being good or bad or whatever. You think about this, no matter what society tells you to think about this person. If you have listened to this person for 20 or 30 years, and you've heard them have conversations with people on the radio,
real people,
for 20 or 30 years, and even though your community keeps telling you this is who that person is, without listening to the person themselves, just like Adam, just conversation we just had. So a so and so, he was calling people the N-word and this and that, all this stuff, but somebody who ain't listened to the show, someone who's being directed.
You heard it from somebody.
Yeah, somebody's being directed by someone else what to think. And my problem is, and the reason a lot of people may have a problem with me, Eddie Adams Jr., is that I don't give a crap if you ain't feed me, putting roof over my head, or my family's head, or primarily the cause of that thing, then I can take or leave whatever your ideas and whatever your opinions are. if they make sense to me, I will let you know that I agree. Yeah, that's pretty good. We're moving in the right direction.
But Eddie, you're talking about having an objective mind to
Right.
be able to hear something and for yourself determine, is this true or is it not? And am I going to be the one to go look it up? Nowadays, we have these smartphones that are so much smarter than the average person that holds on to that thing, because you have knowledge right there. But that doesn't mean any power if you don't go look it up. And then you begin to realize, okay, so if I look this up, if I go to DuckDuckGo, another website, obviously Google is kind of slanted. So you kind of got to compare them. Well,
Right.
gee, that took an extra minute to go look that up and actually look through it. Well, but now you have the truth, and from there you can make a decision for yourself, but it's listening to things objectively. And you know, to that, I've been a Christian for many years of my life, and yet someone said, well, I want to explain to you how Jehovah's Witness stuff works. And we might have some great people listening right now to Jehovah's Witness.
Right.
You know what? That's good. I know enough. I'm good. I have a preconceived notion, and I'm going to run with it now that I'm this far along in life, because I'm this far along in life, Eddie. You got to figure stuff out after a while. And for you to be objective and listening to radio, listening to watching TV, what is the message you're giving? What is the theme? And when you hear regular people in regular neighborhoods around the country saying, well, I don't like the way this is done. I don't like, and when you hear enough of that, you begin to get a consensus, well, maybe this isn't a good thing. And again, but he didn't have a preconceived notion coming to the table initially. Said, what do you think about this? He might have a thought,
You're right.
but he wasn't going to tell you, no, that's not right, like CNN would do. No. You're being a racist if you
Right.
contradict what we're telling you. That's crazy.
Well, see, the other thing, too, you got to think, sir, I have never, in the whole time that he was on TV, never saw a TV show, never saw the Rush TV show.
Oh, I watched it when he had he had two cell phones. Remember the StarTAC, the flip phones? He had two flip phones duct taped to his head, listened to a 1-900 number, and he said, this is going to give me cancer by the time I finish this show. Actually, he just died of cancer. Oops.
Well, that wasn't what gave him cancer, though.
No.
Yeah. When he say his formerly nicotine
Stained hands. There you go.
stained fingers. You got to smoke a lot of cigarettes.
A lot.
I'm telling you, I worked in healthcare for a while. You got to smoke a lot of cigarettes. You got to drink a lot of alcohol for your lips to turn white or pink. You know, once you get alcohol burned lips, as a child or as a teenager, you know, the black folks I'm talking to, y'all know what I'm talking about.
Burned lips.
When you look at them folks who have jet black lips, and then when you look inside them, they're pink or they're white or some other color from drinking so much alcohol when they was younger. You know, that stuff never goes away. It changes color, it never goes away. When your fingers and your teeth are turned that color because of tar and nicotine,
Yuck.
you know, from smoking so many cigarettes and over so many years.
Keep it showing, Andy.
And I'm just saying that, you know, it's insidious the way stuff like that kill you. See, because they don't kill you immediately or overnight, it takes a long time for it to kill you. But just know this: I got a bunch of people in my life that I loved. I mean, loved deeply. My grandfather, you know, my aunt. I got uncles. I got, you know, siblings. I've had siblings that have had, you know, serious issues with addictions. You know, and at this point, 60, 70 years old, it's pretty much catching up with most of them. Most of them that was smoking a pack a day, 2 packs a day. You know, when we was younger, you know, most of them are dying of cancer right now.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just Rush Limbaugh who had lung cancer.
Mm-hmm.
It's a whole generation or two of folks who I was born and raised with, loving, understanding, and thinking about stuff, knowing the potential that one of these days it was going to catch up with. I mean, I got an aunt that I love as much as my mom, and she died of lung cancer. And when I lived with her, she was smoking 2 packs a day, literally.
Wow.
2 packs a day.
Wow.
I mean, so
That's incredible.
most of the time you was talking with her during the daylight hours. You know, she had a cigarette in her hand.
I had a family, Eddie, that I took care of their insurances, and their house, the mom and the daughter both smoked heavily, and they would buy cigarettes by the cartons every few days.
Right, yeah.
They were buying every few days by the carton, and inside their house, everything inside their house was yellow.
Like
the
smoke.
walls were yellow, but it used to be a white wall.
Right.
Their blinds were yellow. And it wasn't because of the sun. It was because these people smoking continuously. It was amazing.
Yeah. My stepmom was a beautiful person, but she smoked. And one of the things, and I'm gonna say this on the air, when I was coming up and I was a young man, you know, real spry and
whippersnapper
and out there, you know, for some reason or other, I was never attracted to women that smoke. I'm just saying. You know, for some reason, because that told me something about their character, the nature of getting hooked on something that at the end of the day, what it did something to you or for you, but I never got it.
But we're not trying to discredit anyone that smokes and listens to us right now. Thank you for listening.
I mean, the nature of it is smoking is bad, and I don't mind saying that. And at some point in time, even though it's not one of them insanely critical things that make you sick right away, when it starts making you sick, you know, you can start counting your days.
Eddie, I've had friends that I've known that were in their 20s that have done that dip, that scald stuff, and the cancer from that begins to eat their inside of their mouth, their tongue begins to get...
My grandma used to dip snuff.
Oh my God, that's just gross stuff.
And then
that's
folks
amazing.
used to chew in tobacco.
Back in the day.
Yeah.
Back in the day. Oh, spittoon. Remember the spittoon?
Yeah.
I had an aunt who used to do that.
Yeah, all that stuff.
She was a good aim, too.
So anyway, that was just, you know, I just started something and could not finish it the way I want. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about it next week. So let's do On This Day.
Let's go.
On this day and get that out of the way. And this is still the last of Black History Month. So maybe we can get a couple of things in toward and talking about Black History Month before the show is over with. So anyway, on this day, February the 27th, 1827, New Orleans, Louisiana, held its very first Mardi Gras celebration.
Ooh, what year? 60?
1827. On this day, February 27th, in 1951, the 22nd Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was ratified. And what did it do? It limited the U.S. president to 2 terms.
We had
W.O. terms.
Because we had a past president went for 3, didn't he?
We had a past president that went for 3. On this date, February the 27th, 1973, the American Indian movement occupied Wounded Knee in South Dakota. And I know a lot of you guys who are my age remember it being in the news where the troops went on the reservation and folks were hurt, and those were the American Indians, and they stood up back then and pretty much haven't heard a whole lot from them since. So I'm just saying. On this day, February the 27th, 1998, Britain's House of Lords agreed to give a monarch's, that's king, queen, whatever, firstborn daughter the same claim to the throne as any firstborn son. This had and was an end to over 1,000 years of male preference. Because if you know, the way the lineages went back in those olden days is the first son, the oldest son, King George, King John, King Louis, King whoever, had been the first son, then the second son, then the third son, and it didn't cross over to the daughters. Well, this happened in 1998. So over 1,000 years,
Wow.
throughout the world, these monarchs was passing down lineages, to their son. If the daughter was older, it skipped her. So, anyway, Gabriel, go ahead.
Folks, a lot of stuff is happening, and I started to show off that way that people just aren't paying attention. Biden's first month in, we've got $85 million to a Raytheon arms deal for Chile. We've got $197 million for Raytheon missiles for Egypt. So this is your tax dollars going to other countries so they can get weapons. We've got $245 million back to Raytheon arms deal with the U.S. And then we got 1.2 billion Raytheon missiles used for defense as well. Oh, what about the stimulus checks? We're at zero right now. We have drone strikes in Somalia happening. We have building a U.S. military base in Syria. We've sent thousands of troops to Yemen, Syria, and Iraq. This is the president of war. So since Obama received a Nobel Peace Prize, he was bombing the shit out of the Middle East. Biden will probably get one too. And if you save your green stamps and quickly mail them in, you can get a Nobel Peace Prize too. The value has been greatly diminished. Meanwhile, Biden also cancels the Operation Talent Program, which targeted sex offenders living in the U.S. illegally, because Biden wants the sex offenders to stay here. Kind of looking through, folks, the first month in for Mr. Biden, he has frozen. Trump had put in for a decrease for people's insulin, and Biden said no, leave it alone. And then also Efren, do I pronounce that right? Efren, he canceled that as well. Mr. Biden's killed thousands of jobs right off the bat. Refunding Wuhan Institute, the one that gave us the virus. Also the WHO, which is owned by China, and it's been lying to us the whole time about where the virus came from. We're sending them $200 million. And it's an understanding that money, here's $100 million going to the Bay Area Rapid Transit System. Bay Area. Oh, that's where Nancy Pelosi lives. That's weird. Then $18 million for similar transportation projects. In other words, nobody knows. $200 million for museums, and $270 million combined in arts and humanities endowment. Billions are going for the bailouts for state governments and their underfunded pensions. So, meanwhile, your stimulus check, it's still a zero. Looking through, folks, so much going on. How about Dr. Andrew said, amazingly, only 165 patients have been hospitalized with the flu since October. 165. Last season, they had 400,000. Staggering. So COVID has cured the flu. It is a miracle on how that happened, because we no longer have the flu, folks. Let's see. Now, going back through here, there's one little ditty here. I get called, I got called pretty today.
You did?
I got called pretty today. Well, actually, the full statement was you're pretty annoying, but that's okay. You know what? You got to work with what you got. And do you ever, folks, you ever just flex your foot the wrong way and it cramps up on you? And you're just like, this is it. This is how it ends. Sometimes we just don't know when it's going to happen. And to finish on a happy note, two women were fighting in a bus bitterly over the last available seat. The conductor had already tried unsuccessfully to intervene when the bus driver shouted to the conductor, "Let the ugly one take the seat." Both women stood for the rest of the journey. Argument done. Isn't that nice, folks?
Yep. And like I said, this is Black History Month, so we're coming up to the end of Black History Month. And for those who did not know, and for those who did not see the movie Hidden Figures, which was about the human computers. That was black women who was working at NASA or working for NASA back in the day.
That was a great movie.
And Miss Mary Winton Jackson had a building in Washington, D.C. renamed yesterday after her.
Oh, wow.
So she was one of the four black ladies who were mathematicians who were in the movie Hidden Figures. So if you didn't see that movie, go see that movie because it talks about, from where we came. Because at that point in time, there was no colored bathroom. So the women had to walk like a half a mile, in
the rain outside to the building.
To go to the bathroom and then come back. And some of the stuff that when you look at it with a sympathetic eye or ear, it makes a difference. And the fact of the matter is, this lady had this building named after her, and one of the other women had a spacecraft named after her. But none of this would have happened had they not made that movie, Hidden Figures.
True.
And once they made the movie, the world saw what was happening. These women who had already done all of that work, had already done all that stuff, had already been involved in that whole process. When people say, I didn't know, sometimes it means something, sometimes it don't. But at the end of the day, this woman, Miss Jackson, had a building named after her. The other woman has had a space vehicle named after her, and some other stuff. A lot of stuff to come, and most of these ladies are dead. So this stuff is happening after their death. But it's important to know it happened, and it happened that way. Some of these stories, when you see stories about people's lives and some of the stuff that happened in people's lives, it's important to put it in context.
Always.
Because the best efforts are made to get it right, technically. But at the end of the day, the producers, the writers, and all those folks are people, and many of those are white folks. So again, there's always a tinge of potential racism or injustice, that's given because the writer always puts a little of themselves into the story. That's just a journalistic, fact. If you're writing something, how you use words, how you picture, how you frame the picture, for the director and for the cinematographer and a lot of this other stuff, makes it happen. So it's good that they did the movie, and it's good that the world know that stuff like this was happening behind the scene, and it came to the forefront. Tampa Bay, until next week when we do this all again, I would like to thank you for listening to Porch Talk Radio. This is Eddie Adams and Gabriel Phillips signing off. Till next week, same bat time, same bat station. We love you, Tampa Bay. Bye-bye.
God bless America.
Bye-bye.